decision, the formal decision of the board, happened after I ceased to be on the board.
Conservatives say that's not true.
How did you not have to do that?
Are you interested in me answering questions, or are you interested in interrupting today?
You're making every effort possible to not answer the actual questions that we are asking.
In Canadian federal politics, the Canucks are represented by two separate yet unequal groups: the globalists who sold out and the opposition trying to salvage a country. These are their stories.
Good morning. We're here today because Mark Carney needs to come out of hiding and answer questions for the lies that he's told to Canadians. I want to start by reading you a quote from the Toronto Star. It says, and I quote, "The Star asked the Carney campaign repeatedly if he supported the moving the headquarters to New York, but did not receive a response," end quote. Now, this wasn't a question from Conservatives. This came from the Toronto Star.
I was chair of Brookfield Asset Management.
And the answer is yes, by the way. Yes, he supported the moving of the Canadian headquarters of Brookfield to New York City, to Donald Trump's hometown. The real question for sneaky Mark Carney is if he thinks that this was such a good idea and such a good business decision for Brookfield, does he think that all Canadian companies should move their headquarters from Canada to New York City? This isn't something that can be dismissed as confusion or mindfulness or forgetfulness or something that happened a long time ago. This was mere months ago. And the facts are in black and white. I have another quote for you from Mark Carney. Quote, "The decision, the formal decision of the board happened after I ceased to be on the board," end quote. But here are the facts. In October, Mark Carney sat at the head of the board table for Brookfield Asset Management with one hand on the mahogany table, the other hand on the gavel, brought the meeting to order, received a motion to move the Canadian headquarters to New York City out of Canada, taking Canadian jobs with the move, and along with his board, they unanimously voted for that motion. Mark Carney gavelled out the meeting. But that's not all, because 6 days after U.S. President Donald Trump first threatened Canada with unjustified tariffs, Mark Carney personally authored and sent a letter to all of the shareholders advising them of this unanimous decision that his board had taken, the board that he was chairing had taken, to move Canadian jobs to the United States. And then he asked them in that same letter.
Hey gang, what's up? This is Aaron, Canadian Looney. Welcome to the channel. Like and subscribe.
To support the decision, for all shareholders to support the move of those Canadian jobs to the United States. This is evidence that he knowingly lied to Canadians. Now, it's been 48 hours since he stood before the media, since he took any questions. So where's he hiding? Why isn't he addressing the facts that have been presented in response to the lie that he told? He's clearly in hiding. Now, let's not get confused that the statement sent out by some junior comms staffer on his campaign, that's not sufficient from someone who is barely a week away from potentially assuming the office of Prime Minister. And it's interesting, and I wonder if any of you take it personally, that he refuses to meet with the press gallery. He refuses to come to Parliament Hill and have a conversation with you. But this lie raises questions about his other claims. One of them is that he helped Finance Minister Paul Martin balance the budget in the 90s. Now, I don't know the answer, but it's been pointed out to me that the budget was balanced in 1998, and Mark Carney wasn't in the country at the time. He became a federal bureaucrat in 2004, several years later. So that timeline doesn't add up. He needs to come before Canadians, come before the media, and answer questions about that discrepancy. Is it another lie? Because that seems to be the pattern of what Mark Carney has offered. I have another quote, this one from Blacklock's reporter. Carney yesterday also would not reply to questions over his claim that he personally helped then Finance Minister Paul Martin balance the federal budget in 1998, end quote. So just like his lies about his role and his full support for the decision of Brookfield to move Canadian jobs to the United States, he needs to address this claim.
How did you not have to do that?
It seems like he only wants to take credit for some things sometimes and other things other times, dodging accountability when it suits him. So like he tried to do with Brookfield's move, on his role advising Justin Trudeau, which he used to brag about, but now he claims that that never really happened. He claims that he doesn't have any awareness of how Stripe, where he sat on the board, was not passing on savings from credit card companies to Canadian small businesses. But he's in hiding. He's not here answering your questions. He's refused to do that. And we've called repeatedly for him to disclose his personal assets, his financial interests, his potential conflicts of interest. But there's a Carney loophole in the law, and he could become Prime Minister and get through an entire general election campaign without having to make those disclosures. Today's National Post said, and I quote, "When asked how much Carney received in speaking fees, his spokesman did not directly respond." Again, sneaky Mark Carney is in hiding, and he should be disclosing how much he received in lucrative speaking fees and from whom and when. And look, if he's done nothing wrong, he should just come here and take questions and address the questions that are rightly being put before him. So we have no idea what stocks, other investments that he holds, what serious conflicts of interest he has had and would potentially have, and what he's hiding and why he's dodging accountability. He needs to come out and take questions from the media as he's poised to become Prime Minister in just over a week's time. Now, he posted a picture yesterday on social media that he was preparing to vote in the Ontario election, presumably from his home here in Ottawa. He's got an event here in Ottawa on Saturday, so he's not that far from where we are right now on Parliament Hill. The least he could do, especially if he's got nothing to hide, is to come before Canadians and answer questions from the media. After all of this, it's time for sneaky Mark Carney to be accountable and to take questions from Canadians. Thank you.
What do you make of the fact that Donald Trump says that he doesn't like what Mr. Poilievre is saying about him and it's not positive? Your reaction?
Pierre Poilievre has said that he's going to put Canada first. He's going to make sure that our Canada First plan grows bigger paychecks for Canadians, that it protects the territorial integrity, our sovereignty. We're a proud, sovereign nation that will never be the 51st state, that we're going to find new markets to get our clean, ethical, natural resources to Tidewater, that we're going to make sure that we stop the flow of illegal guns and fentanyl and criminals into our country.
Those are the things that he's said, but the question is, what do you think about Donald Trump's comment about Pierre Poilievre?
I think that we're laser focused on what's best for Canadians. We're not worried about comments of people in other countries, because our plan is to put Canadians first, and our primary...
Are you worried about what Donald Trump is saying? Sorry, I don't understand what you mean.
You think that the objective of the official opposition should be to gain the praise of foreign leaders instead of to put Canadians first? Because that's what we're doing.
But how can a Conservative government tell Canadians they might be able to work with the U.S. or put Canada first if the President of the United States is already saying they don't like what your leader has to say about him?
I think at the end of the day, it's really about what's best for Canadians, and what's best for Canadians is to put forward a Canada First plan that is about protecting Canadian jobs, growing Canadian paychecks, ensuring that we're a strong, sovereign nation, and these are the things that Mr. Poilievre has consistently said, and he will work collaboratively with our allies and our trading partners while also diversifying our markets.
Can I ask you about the Ontario election? What do you think of the result, and are you worried that Ontario voters opting to go with an incumbent government because of the fear of tariffs means something bad for your party? Are you worried about that?
Look, it's great that Ontario electors were able to exercise their democratic rights yesterday and cast a ballot. And what we've heard from Canadians is that they want a plan from the federal government after nearly a decade of the Carney-Trudeau Liberals that has made life more expensive, that has made things harder. They're not any richer than they were 10 years ago.
What do you think about the Ontario election?
Than they were 10 years ago, and they're not better off than they were 10 years ago. And so we're putting forward a plan for Canadians that from what we're hearing, knocking on doors, talking to Canadians, what we heard just 2 weeks ago in Ottawa when thousands of Canadians came to listen to our message, and we're excited about our message that puts Canada first. We hear that message is resonating very well with them, and we've been calling for a carbon tax election because Canadians have been very clear that they reject the policies of the Carney-Trudeau Liberals.
Do you think it's going to hurt the Conservative Party that there's another majority government in Ontario? Is it going to hurt you federally?
We're going to take our message to voters as soon as we have the opportunity. We've been very clear about what our plans are for Canadians. That's the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to cut taxes. First of all, with the carbon tax, we're going to take taxes off of
Doug Ford. I mean, he's a conservative just like
homes. Are you interested in me answering questions, or are you interested in interrupting today?
You're making every effort possible to not answer the actual questions that we are asking.
Hey, that's something everyone can enjoy.
Last night we had an election in Ontario, and when we have the opportunity for an election federally, we're going to put forward our message for Canadians, and that's one that puts Canada first. It's where we're going to reduce taxes for Canadians. We're going to axe the carbon tax. We're going to take the tax off new home sales. We are going to, of course, reverse the negative trend of housing starts having gone down after 10 years of the Carney-Trudeau Liberals. We're going to introduce a dollar-for-dollar law to stop the out-of-control inflationary spending of the Carney-Trudeau Liberals. And of course, we've got to reverse the scourge of crime on our streets with policies like jail and not bail for repeat violent offenders. Look, we're going to tear down interprovincial trade barriers so that we can trade freely in our country. This is a beautiful country, and we need to make sure that in the threat of tariffs from other countries that we're able to exercise free trade here at home. So we're very excited to put forward our plan for Canadians in the next federal election.
Mark Carney, just a little word on Mark Carney. What makes you so sure that the Liberals will choose Mark Carney if he's so sneaky?
Well, Mark Carney hasn't faced any real questions. He's not facing scrutiny from media because he refuses to come out and talk to them. He didn't come out the day after the debate when it was proven that he was lying. He didn't come out the day after that. He's not doing any media today. So Canadians
face the press gallery and face accountability.
Canadians are left wanting when we have someone who's running to be Prime Minister who is telling what are proven lies and then is refusing to answer for those lies when pressed on them, when called to account by the opposition. So we're going to keep doing our job, and we look forward to media pressing Mark Carney with those questions. Thank you very much.
Everyone has an opinion about Canadian federal politics.